Hello and welcome to Procurement Uncut, brought to you by BizClick and our sponsors for this series, Amazon Business. This is your go-to podcast for all things procurement. If you're ready to move from being a tactical buyer to a strategic leader, you're in the right place. Tune in and together we can build a better bottom line. This is a very special edition of the podcast as we come to you from the Aria Resort here in Las Vegas for Coupa Inspire 2026. My guest today has over 20 years of experience at leading business transformation at Fortune 50 and 100 companies. He's worked across aerospace, telecommunications, and manufacturing, and had roles at companies such as Deloitte, Adobe, and Infor. He's a problem solver by nature, helping to lead his teams and thrive amidst chaos. Please welcome to the Procurement Magazine podcast, John Frank, Chief Customer Officer at Coupa. Hi, John. How's it going?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for that intro, although it does make me feel very old when you put the 20 number on it.
But we like it. You must have seen it all, and that's what we're going to get into.
Awesome.
So I was wondering if you could tell me about you throughout your career, you've worked in these customer-facing roles. What is it about that you enjoy so much? Is it when you were younger, did you kind of work in part-time jobs facing customers and loved it? Tell me about
No,
tell me
actually,
more.
it's a career I stumbled into, ironically. Coming out of university with an engineering degree, I quickly realized I didn't want to be a true process hardcore engineer, and I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But I had, I'll call it a calling to chaos, a calling to change, a calling to, things that are always going to be things that keep you on your toes and kind of force you to continue to reinvent yourself. And that's what consulting honestly was for me. I got into it thinking about, what I would be when I grow up, so to speak, using it as a bit of a vehicle to discover different industries, different ways of working, different companies. And what I found I got addicted to was the change itself. New teams, new cities, new technologies. It forced me to use that active brain. And so it's been great. It's been a great career, not one that I would have predicted for myself, but I've enjoyed it.
And where you work now, obviously, it's kind of the intersection between customer experience and technology. But beyond the software and the ROI, what would you say is the most rewarding part of your day? What's kind of the one thing or the one moment that makes you think, this is what I do.
Yeah, my job now is very different. When I started my career, I was a practitioner in the field, and I used to get success from the wins, right? The things that I could do, I could influence directly. And now my job is really one of leading people and breaking down barriers. So what I think what I enjoy most now is seeing the teams break through and seeing them get to success, whether that's in an internal initiative we're working on or whether that's with the customer and solving a really hard problem, and then watching them celebrate and the jubilation on the team. And that's what's fun now. That's what's rewarding.
And then on the other side of that, when you're leading the customer success, when you're sitting across from a leader who's worried, about, let's take AI, for example, worried that may leave their team behind, how do you handle that conversation? How do you move from a place of fear to a place of excitement?
Yeah, this is where your listening ears really got to come in handy, and leading with empathy. Look, they're trying to solve a business problem, a complex business problem, and one that's very human-centric, and you have to realize and recognize that they are connected to those people that they lead. And while the universe is demanding of us in this AI world efficiency, and what we've translated that to is human capital, people. And I think there's an opportunity to think differently about that. Is it really that the efficiency has to come at the expense of the human capital, or is it augmentation to what we do to allow us to drive and do more faster, more efficiently that way? So that's what I really try to have the conversation or anchor the conversation around is, what is it that you're trying to unlock? And what if we can unlock the capabilities of your team to get out of the mundane operational, procurement tasks and really let the automation handle that and unlock them and unleash them to do things that are far more strategic for your business? What would that value and that impact look like? And then we look at that as gain as opposed to just efficiency from a human capital perspective.
Do you feel like, from your perspective, you perhaps come from an industry that maybe not have the same worry about AI, because AI is not going to be able to replace that human relationship. It's not going to be able to answer a question in the middle of the night, be there to provide support, So your relationship with AI, is that kind of different to maybe other people who perhaps think it's going to take their job?
Actually, not really, right? So a lot of my teams have a similar fear. Our support organization, our technical support engineers, a lot of what they do is, yes, relationship driven, but it's the first line of defense for a customer. It's answering those questions, those how-to questions. And a lot of those how-to questions, in full transparency, are things that we can automate and provide via self-service, via agentic chat and solutions. But it's the same thing for my internal practitioners. I'm not looking for those AI tools to displace them. I am looking for those tools to displace that set of tasks and body of work that they do, so that they can become more deeply skilled across our solutions and solve more complex business problems. So it's about the type of work that we do, not the replacement of the individual and the work that that individual does.
So it almost feels like your job's kind of twofold. You're managing the external customers, but also inside in your team. Obviously, it must be kind of difficult. And do you find your relationship with them is almost different? You don't kind of, not mincing your words with them, kind of open there to
Yeah,
conversations?
well, I mean, you have to humanize the discussion in both audiences when you're speaking with a customer, and that customer has an affiliation and affection for the people that they lead, and then I have affiliation and affection for the people that I happen to be in partnership with. And so, yes, those conversations can have synergies to them, but at the same time, can be very different dialogues. A customer is thinking about that through call it the power of the tool, the power of the technology, and how do I unleash more for my business? And I'm thinking about that too, but through the lens of my business. But when I'm talking to my practitioners, my teams, right, the first thing is to empathize with where they are and where we are in this agentic journey, really understanding what does it mean, because there is a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety about is this gonna displace me? And I always say to them, in full transparency, it will only displace you if you choose not to adopt, if you choose not to adapt, and if you choose not to get skilled and leverage of these tools to be more effective and efficient at what we do, then it will displace you.
I think that's probably the kind of most difficult conversation around the technology. Of course, people are so worried that that's only going to be the line until it isn't. Do you think like that's actually going to be the case, that that humans will work alongside AI and it's up to them to adopt it, rather than feeling like they're going to train it to a certain point and then it will replace them?
Yeah, I mean, look, there is an evolution of AI that one fork in the road says that it'll be so smart and so mature that it will do all the things that we do. I think at some point here we'll get smart about how we develop AI and putting some guardrails and some governance around it, even with state legislations and all those types of things as well. But in the meantime, I do think it is complementary to the human-centric experience. We're already seeing early examples of that. I mean, they're all over the web right now, where some companies have tried to go full throttle with AI, and AI isn't quite ready to make the decisions, doesn't have the discernment, doesn't have the ability to think through the consequence. It just acts. And so a human-centric element is still required, at least in these early stages.
How do you keep that human-centric as a leader when you're under intense pressure to deliver, not only for Coupa, but for the customers you provide? How do you keep providing empathy for not only your team, but your customers when, you're under so much pressure?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's staying connected to what's really happening on the ground, right? My job is not to be behind the firewall. My job is to be on the front line with the team. And that's, I think, what allows me to stay connected to what's actually happening, to what problems we're trying to solve, to what problems, right, or opportunities our customers are trying to go after. The more I'm in the field with the teams and with customers, hearing directly, observing, et cetera, the better positioned I am to be able to help them and to guide. And I also have a responsibility to stay tapped into, I kind of say, the broader Coupa community, the broader procurement community, the broader, world market community, and to be able to kind of glean the insights that matter to our customers and be able to share those forward as well. So, yeah. So my job is to stay connected to the people, to the teams, and to what's happening around us.
Your role sounds kind of very full on, all consuming. How do you switch off?
Great question. So I find time, first thing in the morning, I'm on the exercise bike, 45 minutes a day, allows me some quiet time. I work out in the evenings. And then I also find time, my grounding place is at the beach in the sand. So I find time with the wife. Now we're empty nesters, and we have an opportunity to get to we have a home in Florida, to get to that home. And it is our rejuvenation spot. Allows us to kind of recapture a bit of why we do what we do.
Do you kind of have that same attitude towards your team as well? Because it seems, modern work is almost so difficult to switch off. Our jobs can almost become all consuming. How do you kind of implement for your teams to be like, let's step away from the screens, let's log off the emails, let's not check the
Yeah, it's a great
Slack?
question. I'm always encouraging them to find, what's that old adage, work-life balance? I'm not sure it really exists, but at least the work-life integration piece, which is we got to find time to turn off. We have to make the time. Like, it's not going to happen on its own. We have to be deliberate about that. So I'm constantly encouraging the team and trying to model it for myself, right? Model it for them. If they see me doing it, then hopefully there's a bit of a license, right, that they take on to say, hey, John can do it, I can do it. And so I try to model it. I try to check out. I don't send emails or communications over the weekend. So, I think those small things are indicators to them that I want them and need them, frankly. And I mean that last part. You really do need them to unplug, because it allows for the brain to rejuvenate. It's a muscle, right? And if you're always working the muscle is going to be depleted. So you've got to find a way to channel it, shut it down, let it relax, let it heal, and then come back and try something again. So
this podcast is in partnership with Amazon Business. Amazon Business is your one-stop destination for everything your organization needs. Think of it as the Amazon you already know and love, but specifically re-engineered for the way you work. Amazon Business gives you access to business-only pricing on millions of items and quantity discounts that scale with your growth. It's about spending less time bogged down in those manual tasks and more time on what really matters. So head over to Amazon Business and make the power of Amazon work for you.
Absolutely. If you're not taking the time to rest,
yeah,
you're just going to burn out, aren't you, in the end?
I think one more thing is I also allow them to experiment, kind of learn our way forward, give them license to fail, right? It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to I'll call it to experiment, to practice, so to speak. And then as we fail, we learn from that and we try again. And the more that I can empower them to do that, I think the less stress, the less pressure that moment sometimes takes as well.
Another thing I'm really interested in is how leaders in procurement kind of celebrate wins. I feel like procurement in nature does it ever take time to kind of stop and celebrate those small wins? Because, there's always a contract to improve. There's always more money to be saved. There's always a better deal for you to cut. How do you help your team celebrate the small wins, and how do you do it yourself?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I actually think that I probably could do a better job of that, to be honest. Like most leaders, I tend to sometimes get into the prisoner of the moment, right? And in that moment, we're always off to the next. We don't necessarily always pause to celebrate what we just did and the accomplishment. But I will say this, my team, my directs, and the team that I happen to be in partnership with, they do a great job of holding me accountable to that, to saying, hey, did you see what we did? And celebrating it, via emails or our Slack channels. We incorporate it into our all hands, our functional meetings. We have team awards and giveaways and gifts. So we're getting better at pausing to celebrate and recognize the accomplishments up to that point, and then set bigger, more ambitious goals for us as we keep moving forward.
How would you encourage other procurement leaders to do the same in their operations?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think we have to all incorporate it into the culture of our business, the culture of how we actually lead. So, procurement can be perceived as a non-sexy business sometimes. And I think there's an opportunity to make it fun, to make it exciting, to gamify, right? The wins that the team or the goals that the team has in front of them, and then celebrate it when it actually happens. So it just requires a little bit of intentionality, I guess is the word that I say. That, sometimes as leaders, we are intentional on everything but celebrating the team and the capabilities that they've brought to bear.
Yeah, it's one kind of message I'm really trying to get out of the podcast. It's like, let's celebrate. Obviously, like you said, there's always more work to be done. but let's take a moment, celebrate, because, the work that people are doing today is incredible. I mean, for you, you've obviously, you've seen teams go through massive transformations in the businesses you've helped. If you look back at your own career, what was kind of the most difficult change you've had to lead yourself through? And how did that experience change the way you advise your Coupa customers today?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd say the hardest moments are the ones when I know I can't bring a solve to the question, or a solve to the problem that we're trying to go after. That it's going to take us, failing a few times to kind of figure our way forward. That's hard. That's hard for me. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, in that I like to get it right. I mean, I think about the work that we do as part of our brand, part of my brand, part of my team's brand. And I want them, to your point about celebration, I want them to win. But sometimes winning is losing a few times and learning from those misses, because then those misses inform the actual success and the breakthrough that you eventually have. So that's hard. And I've had those moments in my career, where I wanted to push through, those moments in leading teams where I wanted to be able to push through. And there was no easy path, right? It was going to take some misses for us to find our way through this thing.
What's it like being in a customer-facing role during a time of such volatility?
Ton of pressure all the time. Always on, ton of pressure. A lot of fun too. It's an environment that if you are interested and excited by challenges and excited by, kind of a little bit of the unknown, and you like problem solving, I heard that in my intro, right? As you were introing me, those are the things that get me excited and fuel me and fuel that energy and that desire to kind of try to figure it out. I was the kid with the Rubik's Cube, right? When those were back in the day, trying to problem solve that thing. And that's what my job is a lot like. Somebody asked me that a little while ago, and I said I feel like my job is like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube all the time. On one side, there's customers. Another side, there's business objectives. On another side, there's this new thing called AI that's disrupting everything and changing the dynamics. And on the other side, there's people, and then there's family. And I mean, it's a complex Rubik's Cube all the time. But that's not a bad thing either. It's something that keeps my brain always working, keeps me fresh, keeps me enthused, and keeps me kind of pushing and pressing the team forward. So, yeah.
You seem like someone who just absolutely loves to thrive under a challenge. And when you're presented with something, you just want to kind of, let's run at it, let's sort it.
What do they say? Diamonds are made under the intense pressure, right? Intense pressure of the world, of the earth. So
when dealing with all these customers, do they come to you with the kind of same problem? Are they different? What does the landscape look like?
You get a little bit of both. If you're listening well enough, you'll start to hear themes, right? And if you're talking to enough customers, you'll start to hear themes. And themes are good because they're things that then you can solve en masse or in macro for a lot of people. And sometimes the problems and challenges or opportunities are very nuanced, specific to their business and their ways of working. The benefit of being around this business for, actually, you said 20, and at this point it's closer to 30, almost 30 years now, is that there's very little that you haven't seen. It might look a little bit different. It might smell a little bit different. It might have a little bit different taste to it now because it's got an AI lens to it, right? But if you draw on those experiences over the last 20, 30 years of one's career, it has a kinship to something else that you've had an experience in, and you can draw the parallels and start to have, kind of find your way forward. So it's, the customers are just as much unique as they are the same.
If you could go back in time and speak to yourself, starting off on this journey, what's the kind of one piece of advice you'd give yourself?
Start an AI business because I'd be retired now. No. Look, I have thoroughly enjoyed this ride and this journey. The one thing I think I would tell myself is, perfection isn't their standard. And it's okay to take some risk, and it's okay to fail a bit more. That you don't give yourself that grace. I don't think we give ourselves enough grace on that. We're always trying to make sure that we hit it perfectly out the park every single time. And sometimes a single and a double, baseball analogy, right? The single and the double is okay, right? There's learning in a single and a double as well.
I think that's a really nice way to look at it. John, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. It's been so interesting. We've got time for a few more questions, and I'm just going to ask you our first listener question. So someone's got in touch and they've said, in an era of global volatility, how are you balancing the trade-off between lean, just-in-time efficiency and the need for long-term supply chain resilience?
Yeah. Look, the reality is companies have to have the ability to do both. And that's where, a lot of our platform with autonomous spend and connecting buyers and suppliers, and that this is what we do, right? What we do is we sit in that intersection of long-term planning, but the agility to be able to respond when the market demands it or requires it. Prime example, right? We went through a pandemic several years ago. None of us would have predicted that. Everybody was building long-term agility or long-term sustainability in their supply chains. And then all of a sudden that was massively disrupted overnight, and they had to exercise extreme agility. So my team's job, I was going to say my job, but not really, my team's job is to help customers think through both. Think through what does sustainability over a longer time horizon look like, but also building in the agility to be able to be responsive in the moment and to be able to reroute and redirect.
Something we like to do in this podcast is we like to get leaders to speak to one another. So I'd like to give you the opportunity to ask a question for our next speaker. Can be anything at all.
What would you predict this world looks like in 5 years with the rise of artificial intelligence?
Looking forward to answering that to our next guest. And just before we let you go, John, what we like to do is close off our interviews with a bit of a quick fire questions. So I'm going to ask you three. And when you say the first thing that comes to mind, so what would you say is the most exciting thing about the future of procurement?
The uncertainty of it.
What's one thing that people still get wrong about procurement?
That it's just a cost center.
And finally, what is one piece of technology we rely on now which will be obsolete in a year?
Oh, yes. I don't know that I have an answer for that.
That's fine.
One piece of technology in a year.
We've had such a range. Someone's said emails. Someone said keyboards. Someone said Excel spreadsheets.
I almost went there, but I was like, I can't offend my customer. Let me not say that. I almost went there. I was going to say, I don't know. Honestly, I'm drawing a blank on that one.
That's absolutely fine, John. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really insightful to listen to you, and thanks for sharing your advice and stuff.
Thank you for having me.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Procurement Uncut, brought to you by BizClick, Procurement Magazine, and our sponsors at Amazon Business. Thanks for joining us as we strategize our way through the wild world of procurement. Before you go, don't forget we want to hear from you. Got a sticky supplier issue, a negotiation nightmare, or maybe you have an incredible procurement story to share and want to appear on the show? Send us your burning questions or your speaker pitches, and you can easily drop us a line at procurementpodcast@bizclickmedia.com. Please remember to email from your business email address, as all eligible emails will be entered into a draw to win 2 free tickets to Procurement Live worth thousands. We'll be back next week to help you save more, source smarter, and maybe even get that promotion. Until then, keep those contracts tight and your value high. We'll see you next time.